Hello and welcome to the next episode of Eat, Move, Win and the musings of a Bolshie Queenager. Today we have the very beautiful Aliza Bourmad. Have I pronounced that right?
Absolutely.
Oh,
yes.
fabulous. Love it. Right. So the lovely Aliza, she is a human design coach, and you probably can't see her. Most of you will be listening to this, but she is literally the most glam Bikram yoga teacher in the world. I'm making that claim for you on behalf of the world, because very, very glam. Right. So I've been chatting to Aliza back and forward for a little bit. And the reason why I wanted her on is because of her subject matter, human design. And I'm coming to this today as a person, as a complete beginner, as a newbie, as an alien who knows nothing. And human design is something that you might see bandied about in the coaching world. You might see it bandied about in the spiritual world. I don't even know if that's the right phrase, but it's one of those things that is completely, it kind of has, it's a bit like manifestation for me. It's one of those things that goes, ooh, that sounds a bit woo-woo. And you really want to try it, but it's a little bit scary. So today, Aliza is going to basically break it all down, tell us what it all is, help us understand how it can help us. And from having a quick chat with her there, it's going to be quite fun along the way. So let's go. So Aliza, tell us a little bit about you, who you are, where you come from, what you do.
Okie doke. So I'm Aliza. I am currently living in Manchester, and I have been interested in human design for the last few years. Prior to that, or I suppose at the moment as well, I'm a Bikram teacher, as you said. And before that, I used to do a whole range of different things, from event organising to selling doors, to selling cotton buds, to travelling to China, to exhibitions and factories and a million different things. But yeah, at the moment, I absolutely adore human design. That alongside sort of doing yoga and wellness retreats is what it's my passion. I absolutely love it. Human design is just like, I could talk about it forever and probably will, so you might have to shut me up, because once I get going, that is that. But it's just fascinating. It's just, I just love it. I could keep going. So
well, I'm going to get you to keep going, because as I said, I see it a lot, but I've got no idea what it is. So like in the most simplistic way, I'm a baby, I'm a toddler. I literally know, and generally sometimes I'm like a baby and a toddler. What is it? What is human design?
Okay, so human design, it's a really clever tool, basically, that takes into account quantum physics, which I'm not going to start getting into that because I can't explain quantum physics, but the chakra system, the Kabbalah, the I Ching, and there's something else that's just completely fallen out of my head, but that's okay. We'll keep going. It's basically, it takes into account and astrology, like the main bit. So I knew that would come to me. It takes into account all these different things, which can be kind of seen as a bit spiritual and a bit woo, and it brings it all together in this really, really clever format that is it kind of just tells you about you, and it gives you permission to be you. So I suppose going back, a friend of mine told me about it years ago, and you can go online, and everyone can do this. You can go online, just type in human design chart, and you can run your chart for free. It's based on like your birthday, the time of birth, and where you were. Now, some people get put off with that because they're like, oh, it's all astrology, it's a load of, I'm not asked, are we allowed to swear or not?
Oh, absolutely.
Swear. Okay.
The more swearing the better.
Oh, okay, right, well, don't get me started. But yeah, people kind of some people can hear that and think, oh, it's a load of shit. But if you just bear with it, it's a bit like manifestation and goals. Some people think manifestation is a load of shit, but they'll sit there and write the goals out. It's actually the same thing. It's just looking at it from different kind of angles. So with human design, it gives you a blueprint for you and your energy, and some of your amazing skills, sometimes some of the shadow sides, and what to really look out for, what to lean into. And also, I suppose the main thing is this permission to be you. So when my friend first told me about it, I looked up my chart, and I was five different energy types. I was a manifestor. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I like that. And I saw it was quite a rare type. I was like, oh, okay. And then I looked at the chart and I didn't understand it. And that was that. I didn't look at it again for years. As you'd said, I've been a Bikram teacher for years. Over COVID, obviously, the studio had to close down. So I looked into doing something else. I retrained as a spiritual life coach. And within that, there was part of there was some human design. And they just explained like the briefest amount of it. And I was like, oh my God, this just makes sense. And it just became clear. And it was kind of like, I didn't really need to spend thousands on that course because I could have just done that. But I do believe everything brings you to where you're meant to be, sometimes in a bit of a funny way. Anywho, with this is what happens. I get overexcited, then I'll lose my train of thought. Do apologize. And then I saw a magpie out the window. I was like, oh, magpie, that's a good sign. Anyway, right. So with the human design, basically, when I understood a bit more and I found out what my type was, it just explained loads of things. So it just made me think, okay, I'm not a weirdo, I'm not a loser, I'm not behind everybody else. I'm just 9% of the population, part of 9%. So of course I'm going to do things differently. And then when I looked at it in that lens, I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going through life like in a different route to a lot of other people. And it's not wrong. It's just how I'm doing it. So it was that permission. And it was like, thank you.
Did it help you feel seen? Like that kind of like, oh, I'm okay to be like, this is me and it's okay.
Yeah. And to actually like, I know like leaning in is quite like a bit of a buzz thing at the minute. And I'm not sure if I like it, but it was like, okay, I can lean into that. Like I can be more me rather than trying to be something else or somebody else, or try and not like conform to, well, I suppose, conform to what everyone else is. And the way that I like to look about it is like every person is like a jigsaw puzzle, and we've all got different pieces of the puzzle. So nobody's actually the same, even though you can be like an energy type. My piece of the puzzle of my energy type is going to be different to somebody else that's a manifest, the same as yourself with your energy type. But we're all very different. We all need different things, but it makes you feel seen. And because there's so much nuance to it, and you can literally learn about it your whole life, and different things will make sense at different points. It's like, oh, okay. This is, and some of it is so spot on that I was a bit like Mr. Potato Head scared eyes, like, how do they know this? But yeah.
I suppose, do you know what you've just said there? It reminds me, you mentioned astrology.
Yes, astrology. I think astronomy is something.
I remember years and years and years ago reading and it was the era of something like More magazine or Just 17, and it was like the annual horoscopes, and it said like, I'm a Leo, and it said Leos, and just like, oh my god, that's totally me. But then as you get older and you like read the horoscope and you go, well, that's a crock of shit. So I think that's, for me, it's one of the things. It's like, is this just going down that kind of route again? Mm-hmm. But as I get maturer, like as I mentioned to you about manifestation and how when you're first presented the manifestation, you're just like, well, that's absolute nonsense. Like you can't just imagine it to be real and suddenly it becomes real, because otherwise we'd all be sitting imagining winning the lottery, and then we'd all have £1 million notes like popped through a letterbox. But as I've got older and done a lot more work on me and understanding how people work, how energy systems work, it all starts making sense that actually, of course, if you're sitting there being a moaning face cow and a negative ninny and just like not take, well, and just having like going back to basics, a really fixed mindset, then of course nothing good is ever going to happen to you. And it's exactly the same.
It just makes sense, doesn't it, when you look at it?
And you're like, okay, when you go, well, manifestation and human design is common sense. And then you're just like, oh, well, that fits in a little bit better, because like anybody that knows me at all would never put well, you're spiritual and you're all about the universe. But actually, I am a little bit like, and there's been a number of people along the way. One that's probably listening today is a girl I go to sound bath with. She does sound bath. And she's just like, she starts talking about chakras the first time I went to sound bath. I was like, but then some of the stuff that she did started making sense and started like, oh, that's a bit, that's a bit.
I think sometimes it's the labeling of it all. And sometimes we can think, oh no, I don't like that. And this is why it's even like with yoga. So the yoga I teach is hot yoga. It's in 40 degrees. So sometimes people hear the thing yoga and they think, oh, I don't want to sit in a room chanting that's all quiet and everybody's wearing tie-dye. When actually, like the yoga that I teach, it's 40 degrees for 90 minutes and you've not got a minute to like think of anything else. Now it's looking at it in a different way. And I think that's the same with spirituality. So if you cut you can kind of call it different things, but sometimes we like, oh, well, I don't like, no, that's a load of rubbish, or that's when you actually, and this is all about being open-minded to anything, like you say, when somebody's got an open mind, then all these different things can come in. It's like, okay, and again with the jigsaw puzzle, it's like, well, okay, I'm not signing up to sitting there with incense and a pair of velvet crush pants on, but I am going to sit there and think, well, do you know what, those crystals look nice just because I like them, and also a sound bath's going to help me. It's like, you just pick and choose the bits that you like. You don't have to like all of a sudden walk, you know, like what was it, tonight Matthew, I'm going to be spiritual and walk through the dry ice and like come out the other side. It's like, okay, well, I like that bit and I like that bit and that's the bit I'm going to take, and that's okay. Yeah. And then what tends to happen is a bit down the line, you're like, oh, now I like that and now I'm doing that. But yeah.
Yeah, so it is. I think a lot of it is to do with the tagging and how I think a lot of people's misconceptions when it comes to things like this are, oh, well, that's a little bit cultish and and I'm too normal for that, or I'm too, like, that's not for people like me. And a lot comes down to, you know, that growth mindset and that fixed mindset that I talked about as well. Definitely. But it's the same, like, I used to teach fitness, used to be a personal trainer. And you see it in the fitness industry as well, as much as you do with yoga. Like, you see it with all like CrossFit and High Rocks, and you're like, oh, well, I'm not doing that. That's for super fit athletes. And like, well, actually, no, it's like some people do get to be super fit athletes, but most people start because they want to get fitter. And it's the same spirituality. Like, some people just want to explore a little bit more about themselves. Like,
and it's just being accessible. And I think this is it. Sometimes things don't look accessible. It's a bit like, it can look scary from the outset, when actually, if it can be presented in a way that this is going to really help you actually with how you go about your daily life, like literally it's going to help you. And with human design, knowing about, I think once you know about yourself, you kind of want to know what everyone else is, and then I sit there and I'm like, right, there. And it just makes it easier to work with other people as well. They use it a lot in America in corporate settings, yeah, because they'll do it as a full team, and then you know, okay, that person's that energy, and some people have consistent energy and some people don't have consistent energy, and some people are really here for the ideas, and some people are really here to like bring things through to the end. And when you can like fit all these different people together, it just means that you can just see people for like who they are, and lean in, again, but lean into your strengths rather than try and be. It's like, oh, and I always get these things wrong, but there's that saying about like, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to think it's an idiot or something like that. But that's exactly it. And it's like, when you know, do you know what, I'm a fish and I'm really good swimming, so I'm going to lean into that. Like, you can be whatever you want to be. So if you want to learn as a fish to climb a tree, I don't know if that's possible because I'm not very good with animals, but maybe you could. But actually, like, go and do what, and it's not to put you in a box. It's absolutely not to put you in a box. It's very much, you can take it or leave it. And I kind of start, any of the times I do a reading for somebody, I'm like, look, they call this an experiment. I'm going to tell you this information, and this is kind of my take on the information. There's lots of different, you know, it's kind of like translated. If it works for you, brilliant. If it doesn't, put it to one side. And sometimes things, you can find out things and you can think, oh, there's something called your not self theme. So as a manifestor, my not self is anger. So when things aren't going how I should be doing, I get really angry. When I first learned, I was like, I'm not an angry person. And then I was like,
God, be the same person.
Actually, maybe. But this is it. It's like, oh, okay. So maybe I was a bit triggered by it at the beginning, and then I sat back and I was like, do you know what, the odd times that like I'm not doing what, like when I know it feels, and this is another thing that human design's very big. I know I'm jumping a bit all over the show with it here, but it's about your intuition and learning to work with your intuition. So our brains are here to process, they are not here to make decisions. It's how we feel, and it's learning. Different people have different, so I did actually pull up your chart because I couldn't not, because I'm obsessed with it. Anyway, I'm like, can I just know your birth details? I know people must think I'm a bit weird, but it's fine. I don't care, because they normally get excited when they hear what I've got to say about them. But you've got an emotional, your intuition is emotional, which means that you probably ride the waves of emotion. You can feel emotions up here and down there. Now, I'm saying you probably. If it doesn't, it's not like, you know. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'm just gonna. So it's like you can ride the waves of emotion. Now, you really shouldn't be making, or decisions in the moment, because if your emotions are up here and you make the decision, the next day when you're like back to kind of middle ground, you're like, oh my God, why did I say that? Or if you're feeling a bit shit and somebody comes to you with an idea or something and you're like, no, and then the next day you're like, oh, actually I really like the sound of that. So it's like there's not that much clarity in the moment. So it's just giving yourself the grace of time. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't make a decision. It's like, what sandwich do you want? Well, you know what, you have to make a decision or you're going to be hungry until tomorrow. But it's like for bigger things, it's just give yourself the grace of time. Now for me, I'm the opposite. I've got splenic intuition, which is really quick. Now for years I would just like something would pop into my head that made completely no sense, and I'd be like, yeah, doing that. And I always thought, oh my God, what's the matter? Why am I not like thinking this? Why am I not like writing? I've got all the station. Why have I not written it all down and made like a calm, careful decision, where all my big decisions have always been just literally seemingly out of nowhere. Now, when I learned about where my intuition comes from, that's exactly what it is. It's like this tiny little voice that pops in, not like an actual voice, but it's like an idea that comes in. I've not got like this little person. So, well, that would be really good. Oh,
That would be
maybe
great.
I have that candle. That's not my intuition. But there's a candle with eyes on behind me, just for people listening. I'm not gone completely mad.
There's not a fish on a lamppost.
There isn't a fish on the lamppost, I hope. But yeah, it's just, that's it. It's like, oh, so my decisions are made really quickly, and that's okay. I don't have to think I'm an idiot for not thinking them through. Like, I do just have this knowing in the now. Now you also have, it's very nuanced. So you also have your spleen defined. So you will get things really quickly as well. But it's like for bigger decisions, it's just give yourself the grace of time. You don't have to make a decision straight away. So like in this world of like really fast decisions, things happen really quick, you can really think that you need to. When actually, you know what? Is 24 hours going to make a massive difference to everyone else? Maybe not, but it will make a difference.
That's really interesting. So I remember one of the very first business coaches I had, and it was two males, and they're a lot younger than me. Now I work with women in their 40s and 50s. So I'm at that place. My clients are that place. These were young guys. And they spent hours with me with this whole data over emotion. I'm like, that, I can't do that. Like I get it. And I'm very much, I do love numbers, and I love stats, and I love spreadsheets. I just love that kind of stuff. But
maybe we are the same person, because me too. Sorry.
But I am not. If something doesn't feel good, because of even though the numbers say do that, if it doesn't feel good, I'm not going to do it. Yes, and I beat myself up so much, and for such a long time, that's probably really did negatively impact my business, because I tried to put myself into that bucket of data, and trying to shut off the inner voice. I feel like
that intuition.
And I think, I don't know if it's different for men or different for women. I really don't care whether it is or not, but at an individual level, you do have to listen to that voice. And you're bang on the money. I am hugely emotional. Like, I have high highs and low lows, and I find it really hard to find a middle ground. And these same coaches are like, you can't live your life in these high highs and low lows. You're going to have to moderate. And that then made me feel like such a failure, I suppose, as a person for not being able to moderate. And now as I've got older, and this is only in the last 5 years, so it's kind of recent history, to get to this point in my life where I've always done really well and excelled and been a high performer, to be told you're living your life wrong because your highs are too high and lows are too low. And that really knocked my confidence, to then go, maybe I've done everything wrong in my life. Like,
no, that is you. And this is it. That is you. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're 1 or you're 80, that is you. So as a kid, you might have, been having tantrums on the floor in Tesco. You might still now, I don't know. But it's like you kind of regulate things. But you are here, you are meant to feel. So there's no good or bad human design chart. There's no chart and you think, oh crap, they've got a rubbish one. There's never that. It's just working with what you've got. But for you, like, the beauty of it is that you feel the highs higher than other people will. So you just will feel those highs. But there's always like light and dark, or shadow, whatever it is, however you want to call it. It's always the opposite. And the opposite is, what, you will feel sometimes the lows a bit more, but it's just, and knowing that when you're at the complete lows, you don't have to think, oh my God, there's something terribly wrong. You're just like, okay, I'm going to ride it. And it's riding the wave, because you will, when you're at the low, to get back to the high, you've got to go back to the middle point. So you are always going to get back to it. And it's just trusting and knowing and saying, on those days where you are feeling really like that, it's not the end of the world. You don't need to throw everything away, and you're not a shit person, and you're not like this. It's just like, okay, that is how I am today. And then I'll come back on that wave and come back around. But it's not, and this is why. And it's funny that you kind of mentioned that there were two youngish guys, these coaches. It's like, I think a lot of the time now you can see so much stuff on TikTok, and some of it is amazing. I have learned some amazing facts that I would never have learned. I mean, some I don't know if I'm ever going to need, but sometimes it's these people that are really sure on what they have to say that is right for everybody. And again, it's not right for, we're all very, very different. And I think not everybody is for everybody. And as soon as you understand, maybe that comes with age, like I know I'm not for everybody. Like as a Bikram teacher, some people really like my classes, some people hate my classes and don't like how I am at all. They don't want, they want something else, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. Like the people that you're really for, and the people that you're not. There's enough other people, but it's not, it's kind of like, it's just, again, it's seeing things through a different thing. But no, you've not, and I'm sure you know, like your intuition and you going on your kind of gut feeling, that is your superpower. That is it. And we should really be, and I wish we were taught more, I wish kids were taught more, like to listen to that, because we go against it. When I used to hire people for a yoga studio, sometimes I'd be on the phone, because a lot of the time they were international teachers, and I'd do a first interview and they had all the credentials, and I'd be like, they're not right.
Yeah.
And then I think, what's the matter? Why are they not right? Am I just being a bitch? And I thought this for ages, but it's all right, I'll hire them. And it was a nightmare. And I'd do it again. And then one day I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to, like, maybe I'm not being a bitch. Maybe there's something in this. Maybe I'm being a bitch that I don't like them. But actually, maybe there's... And then I went with my gut feeling. I was like, oh, this is right. And I realised that in a different life, I'd be quite a good recruitment agent, but I'm not going to at the moment.
At the moment, you're like, oh.
Who knows? Listen, who knows? I never said I'd be a yoga teacher. So anything goes. But this is it. It's listening to your intuition. And again, this is what I love about human design. It shows you where your intuition lies. And it's like just coming back to it. You can almost like play a game with it. So when I had started finding out about mine being split second, I remember waking up one day and this person popped into my head, and it was just like, they need to come on a yoga retreat. And I thought, oh my God, if I get in touch with this friend that I've not spoken to for ages, she's just going to think I'm being like a really yick seller of my retreat. And then I thought, do you know what? It's really weird that I woke up thinking that, so I'm going to go with it. Messaged her and I was like, do you fancy coming on? And she's like, oh my God, absolutely. I really wanted to, but I thought you'd sold out and I didn't want to put you in a position where you had to say no to me. And I was like, so there was a reason why that came into my mind. And it's like, again, it's like playing a game. It's like you trust it, see if it works. You trust it, you see if it works. And the more you trust your intuition, the louder it is. But you hear loads of entrepreneurs, like big entrepreneurs, and they're like, oh, the accountant said it's not worth taking a risk on this and that, but I knew it was going to be good. And then they've made millions and billions on something. All they're doing is listening to their intuition, which we've all got, but we need to be quiet to hear it.
Yeah, that's
very hard,
true.
especially when you've got a busy mind.
Yeah, I do find it particularly hard shutting down the noise. Like we talked about this when we were talking about yoga earlier. It's like that. You take a second in there, like, you discover 500 things that need to get added to the list. It's already got 2,000 things on it. You're just like, so how, like, in day-to-day life, how would it help someone? So, you know, somebody's chugging along, they've got a business, they've got a family, they're doing all the things. How does it help them get better at what they do, or be better parents, or be better people, or whatever?
So for it just being about yourself, it would be, I'd say, firstly, learning about what your energy type is. So there's 5 different energy types. 2 of them have got consistent energy. You're one of them. So you're a generator, and you have consistent energy, which means that you've got consistent energy, but only if you are doing what you love. So in your day-to-day life, it would be a huge thing that if you are listen, we're all human, and we all have like those days or weeks where we're like, got no energy and we're done. That's because we're human. But if it went on for months and years and you're like, I don't have consistent energy, that would be your sign to like, look at what you're doing. Are you doing what you love? And what you love can be different to everybody else's. It might be complete, what you love might be sitting looking at spreadsheets all day, which might be somebody else's complete idea of hell. But if that lights you up, that then gives you the energy. And for somebody like yourself, that just means, I always think of generators as like sunshine. When you're doing what you love, you light up everything else around you. Now, when you're not, it's like someone throwing a towel over the sun, and it's like, So for the other 3 types, there's no consistent energy. So it just means that you have to work slightly differently. So on like a really broad sense, first learning about your energy type can just kind of guide you as to what you should be doing day to day. It doesn't mean that when you've not got consistent energy, you can't do stuff. So I don't have consistent energy, but for years I worked in my yoga studio and worked 70, 80, 90 hours a week. I did. Could I do it? Yes. Did I feel my best? No. So it's just kind of gives you little guides and signposts. Other things are like working with your intuition. Another thing day to day is, so kind of the chakra system. I know I've not even shown you one of the charts, and I kind of want to show you, but I know all the people can't see. So it's like, if you imagine like the chakras or going through your body, different ones, people have them defined and not defined. Now where it's open, where it's not defined, it just means you're allowing other people's energy in. So again, on a day-to-day basis, so my emotions are open, and I can feel like people when they're really happy. I can cry when somebody's really happy near me, and sometimes if they're sad, I can. And it's now knowing, actually, that's not mine, that's yours, and I'm just feeling it. I know that sounds a bit weird. I've kind of gone a bit super weird with that, but it's just on a day-to-day, it's knowing what's yours and what's not yours. So for instance, yourself, you've got an open crown, so you will get inspiration ideas from all over the show, and things will be coming in and out, and that's amazing. And your mind, you've got a defined mind, so you know your own thoughts. So when all these things are coming in, and then you're like, actually, it'll show you, well, you know what, that's not mine, but that's just some inspiration I'm taking in. And okay, I don't have to take on everything that's popping into my mind. I can just, I suppose, sort of like acknowledge it. This is now going into yoga, just acknowledge it and let it go, and know that, okay, that's mine, that's not mine. And it's kind of like, when you know your overall chart, it can just explain things on how you're feeling and what you're taking in, and also knowing when you're with certain people, maybe it's not for you, and when you're with other people, you can work better, or you've kind of got more energy. And again, this is going a little bit onto the woo side, but where you've got open centers and people have got defined, you take energy from other people. So it's just, I suppose, to sum it all up, it's just knowing yourself more. And then once you know yourself, you can then know the people around you. So something that I'm actually starting at the moment is actually to do it for human design charts for kids. So parents can know what their kids are, because when they're a different energy type to them, you know, it can be quite difficult. But if you understand that that's what your child needs, not that they're being naughty, just because they're a different energy type, I think it just makes everyone like, you can kind of live a bit more in flow. Rather than
I thought of that. That would be a genius thing.
And for your friends and for partners and all, you know, it can go. And this is why I think we should all know our human design charts, because it just means, if you know that you've got a friend that you make an arrangement with, and then they always cancel on the last minute, but you know that the emotional and they're a projector who doesn't have consistent energy, you'd be like, do you know what, they made the decision in the moment and they should have given themselves the time, or I put them on the spot and now they've cancelled. Rather than thinking, well, that friend always cancels, you can think, well, do you know what, I'm going to say, do you want to go on holiday next year? I'll give you a few days to decide. That sounds a bit mean. I'll give you a few days to decide, but do you know what I mean? Don't tell me now, come back to me next week. Let me know. It's being kinder to yourself, because you understand yourself, and then the ripple effect of like other people around you.
You know, like how many relationships across the world have been ruined because you look at every discussion point for what it means to you rather than what the other person is like. And I know that's part of like communication skills training that we get, whatever, but it's not really, because we're all just based like good manners. That's really the fundamentals. And if somebody cancels on you that's bad manners, so therefore they're a bad person. But if you think about different friends that we've got, like I've got a friend that cancels every single session, and for a long time I was like, does she not even like me? Like, and it's nothing to do with that. Like, I know that she does. It's just, that's just not how she operates.
Yeah. And it means that, you know, we don't need to get mad on behalf of, like, when someone's not, because quite often we want other people to kind of act in the way that we're acting, because we know where we're up to with that. So you go by your standards, but everyone's got different standards. Everyone's got different like modes of operating. And when you understand somebody else's mode of operating, then you can just be a bit kinder. Then you don't get mad, then they don't get mad, and it's just like, oh, okay. And it just, I think, leads to a bit more like peaceful being. For instance, most of my family were not emotional. I think my mum and my nieces, my little niece who's 3, and like she will go from 0 to 60 in about a million seconds. Like she loves you 1 second, and then she's like, I hate you, I don't even know who you are, you're a stranger. And at first, but when I did her chart, I was like, oh, okay, she's emotional. So rather than be like, well, that's not very nice, that's really mean, why'd you hate me, you loved me a second ago, I'm like, all right, okay, go and do something else. And then 5 minutes later, that's just her riding her little emotional wave.
Maybe I am your niece.
Maybe. That would be kind of weird, but maybe. The world is great. Who knows?
Oh.
It's magic.
Oh, that's brilliant. Right. So what I want to know as well, like this did intrigue me, and you said this 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes.
Go on.
Right. And you were talking about how you've been to China, you used to sell doors and cotton buds, right? So how does, because I've done a career change, a 360 career change. So I'm totally intrigued. How does somebody who goes to China selling doors and cotton buds become a Bikram yoga teacher and a human design coach?
Well, sometimes I do ask myself that. What basically, I did that kind of all through my 30s, and I'd got an opportunity to go and do Bikram yoga, and I was like, I'd read this quote about 30 days you change, 60 days your friends notice you change, 90 days you're a different person. So I thought, you know what, I'll go and do it for 90 days and I'm never going back into that hell hot room ever again. Did it, got to the end of it, and was like, something had changed, but I was a bit dubious. And I got this opportunity to go and do the training. And the training at the time, I think, was something like $12,000. I wasn't going to be doing that. The way I got this opportunity was that it was paid for. I had to pay them back in classes. So it was like this. And this is with manifesting. Sometimes you don't know how you're going to get something. It's in a really weird way, but it just comes to you as it should. Went and did the training, and I just thought, you know what, this is going to give me the key to be able to travel all around, because you could go anywhere in the world as a Bikram teacher and teach at the time. Well, I suppose you still can do. So I thought that's just giving me the out. If I wanted to, I could go anywhere. Did that 10 years ago now. That took me to teaching in Manchester and Liverpool and Glasgow. Then I moved to Glasgow, started working in the studio. Then I started managing it. Then I co-owned it. And then COVID hit, and it kind of gave me a chance to like look back and think, actually, is this? And at that time I was working like 70 hours a week, whatever. I was like, I'm not feeling great. It's not the best for me. I retrained as a life coach. And within that, I found the human design again. And I was like, this is it. It just felt right. A bit like is it Goldilocks and the Three Bears?
Yeah,
I was like, that's all right. That's all right. Yes, this is what I love. And now I'm kind of at the stage a few years later where I'm realizing I can just bring all these different things together. So I've just come back from I lead some wellness retreats in Spain, where I can bring all the different bits together of the yoga and meditation and manifesting with the moon, which I love, and human design, and just like general, just bringing it all together. So it's kind of a far cry from selling doors and selling cotton buds. But I love that I did that, because some of those skills that I learned then, oh my God, I absolutely need them for now. And I can also tell you what fire door you need and if it's a good cotton bud or not, which who doesn't need those skills?
Well, yes. Yes, although I'm more intrigued with the manifestation with the moon than the cotton buds and the
yes, it is a bit more exciting, but each to their own.
Oh dear. So how do you operate then? So say somebody was like, right, I want to know more about this because this sounds like right. What I tend to find is all my clients are in their 40s and 50s, right? So obviously we've got hormone changes, perimenopause, it's talked about loads. But one thing that comes through loud and clear for, I would say 99.9% of my clients, that's not their number one driver for seeking change. Their number one driver for change is, I don't feel like myself, I'm stuck in a rut, I don't like how I feel, right? Which, coming from your point of view, is also a primary driver from what I expect your clients will come to you for, which is a really interesting segue, really, seeing as we are totally polar opposites in what we do. So is that the main driver, your people that come to you? Is there something else that kind of piques people's interest? And how do they go about it? Like, where do they start looking into it?
Okay, so I think it's just wanting to know more about themselves, really, and just like figuring themselves out and just making life generally easier day to day. or just knowing that there's something else or that there's something more. So that's kind of how people, I think, come across human design and myself. And really, I do coaching, and I bring human design into the coaching, but what I mainly do at the moment is just do the human design readings. So this is something it can be a one-off. You can get a lot in one session. It's about 90 minutes. You can book a second session because there is so much, but I'd actually say, which is not great from a marketing point for my own self, but it's like, take one session and like literally you need to take the information in. I want to know everything all in one go, so I try and get all the information, when actually that's not great. You need to like integrate stuff. So really it's doing a human design reading where we go through your chart and we have a look, and you know where there's so many different bits of it. And also I explain it so that if you want to go away and look into more, it's not like this mystical thing. Like sometimes if you've seen an astrology chart and it's the circle and it's all, and like my brain just can't take it. Once you understand what you're looking at on a human design chart, you can then go away and have a look as well. So that's kind of what I do. So I can empower you to dig deeper as well.
Yeah, I suppose I think it would be really helpful for a lot of people, especially in that kind of like, kind of stuck in a rut. Like there's a lot of people I speak to my age that are kind of stuck in a bit of a career rut, and they get to the point they're like, I don't even know what I'd be good at. Like I don't even know what, like, and I think what you're talking about, like what kind of energy are you, that can really play into helping people decide what they want to do with the rest of their lives. Like, you know,
there's a lot. Oh, sorry.
On you go.
There's a lot also within the chart, in the gates and the channels, which actually show you what your gifts are, that you can, again, lean into, which can kind of show you, you know, what are you good at that you might not realize, that you might just take as, when we're really good at something, we just think everybody's really good at it. But somebody sitting there and saying to you, this is something that you'll be good at, or I'd imagine you would, it can make you stop and think, actually, do you know what? I am really good at that. I am really good at organizing people and moving people. I just thought, no, that's your skill. That's your, like, the magic sauce. That's what you can go and take and do. And it just highlights, it's like reflecting back what sometimes we don't see for ourselves when we're looking. And I think when you are in a bit of a rut, and when you know that you're just really not too sure, sometimes it's nice just to like clear away the noise and say, okay, look, this is you, because we all can, and a whole other bit of it is being conditioned. So like we can have all these things, but like we can, if you've got somebody telling that you're shit all the time, you can be the most confident person that can talk, but if you've got someone telling you shit all the time, all of a sudden you can't talk and you've got no confidence. But actually it's there, and sometimes somebody sitting there and saying, look, that quality is there, that skill is there, and it just gives you that little, it's almost like I see in the clients like a little spark of like, oh, okay, I can come back to that. And yeah, it might take a while to clear away all the other shit, but it's there. So you know what? I can come back to it. Oh, and I think it just can give you a bit of hope and like, right, okay, is how I see it.
How amazing is it when you help somebody get that spark? Like, is that
when you can see it? When you can see it. Oh,
that's amazing.
And like, literally, I will be crying a lot. I read a chart the other week, and this lady was an amazing lady, and I was reading a chart, and literally, and I'm not like, I was like, oh my God, could you tell me what it is that you do for work? And she told me, I was like, I can see how amazing you're going to be. And I was like, where's this coming from? But again, years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, what the fuck's the matter with you, Aliza? Now I'm like, do you know what? Lean into it. You're really excited. And she's really good at what she does. And she's doing exactly what she should be doing. Oh. But it is so exciting to, you know, we all need somebody this is why coaches need coaches and yoga teachers need yoga teachers. None of us know everything, and it's all these pieces of a puzzle. And when you can find somebody just that's kind of not been feeling the best, but you can see that they've got that zhuzh there, they just need it uncovering. Oh, I love it. It just it's amazing. I love it.
Oh, I know. And I think if you are a coach and you don't get that level of passion for helping somebody get that, then you're in the wrong group. You have like, that has to be a driver for you to get that, like, especially one-to-one clients, and they're like, all right, I just want to lose weight, or I just want to have more energy, and then they start telling you like why they want to do that and what they've got planned for their future and how they want to feel in their future, and then they're like, I woke up this morning and realized I didn't feel like this anymore, and you're just like
and that's it. You've got to feel. So this comes back with the intuition. It's like, are you feeling it? And if you're not, doesn't mean you're a bad person, just maybe that's not for you. So somebody can have been doing a job for years and years, and they're really good at it. They make a load of money and they're really high up in what they do. And then you kind of uncover these other things. I'm like, well, have you thought about that? Like, yeah, I really wanted to do that. But, and it's when you see people's eyes light up and you're like, well, can't do that. You're allowed. You don't have to just do that. Oh, it's amazing. But not everything's for everybody, and that's why it's almost like when people talk like that, you're like, yeah, you're doing, like you just said, you're doing the right thing. You're in the right game.
Oh, it's magic. It is like I think when you dig deeper into stuff like this, once you remove the baggage of, oh, this is pure woo, and I mean, that's just, you've got to be that type of person to get that, and actually look at, and it's not like what human design isn't one size fits all. Like everybody is catered for within that, the kind of models that you deal with. Yeah. And anybody can take what you want from it. You can take what you need from it at that time. And I think that's a really exciting thing 100%. Is that like, you're not going to sit and read a chart to someone that's a prescription for how they've got to live their life at all. Like it's, yeah, I totally get it. Oh.
And a thing that I like to do within my sessions, I suppose that's because I'm coming from a coaching background and not just human design on its own, is that sometimes, like, I'll prepare all the information, and sometimes we literally get through, like, I'll prepare like a 20-page report, and sometimes we're talking through something, and all we've needed to do is talk through one thing. And I've kind of used those coaching skills, like, okay, well, there's no point me just giving you info. How's it relating back to your life? So let's make it work for you. And then it's like, take it, because it's like you can read every self-help book, every book on losing weight, every book on yoga, every book on meditation, but until like something clicks for you and you bring it into your life, and like there's no point reading about being a mountaineer when you live in like the flattest place in the world if you can't get there. Like, it's great, but I don't know where that's come from, but anyway, but do you know what I mean? So it's like, let's take this information and really like make it work for you, rather than just having this info.
Yeah, applying it to real life.
Yes.
Okay, so how do people get involved? How do people get in touch with you? How do people get one of these charts?
Okay, so my Instagram is at Save Heal Elevate, and my website's the same, www.savehealelevate.com. Don't judge me by my Instagram, because my skills are not in the Instagram, but that's where there's a link that you can book. But also, I'm more than happy, like if people have got some questions and they want to like ask a little bit more, I'm more than happy to answer. I will say that to get a really accurate chart, you do need your birth time. Now, if it's kind of an approximate, we can still do it, and there are ways around it if you only know morning or night. But to get a really, really accurate one, you do need your birth time. But like I say, there's a lot of people that can't find that out, so I just need to know that, and it just takes a little bit more time to work out. There's still a lot of information that you can get, and yeah, and I think, like I said, I'll give you a little code for your listeners to have a little discount off a reading if they would like as well.
I'll put the code and the links in the show notes, so you can just click on them for easy. But just from listening to you today, like it makes sense. Like, it's not this mad pie in the sky stuff. It makes sense that if you want to be the best version that you can be, you've got to understand yourself the most that you can, play to your strengths.
Definitely.
And lean in.
Lean in. And I think a lot of people try to make themselves sound cleverer by making things sound really complicated, when actually, do you know what? It's like manifesting with the moon. New moons are for new things, and full moons are for releasing. Now, that's like summed up.
I didn't know that.
There's a million things that you can do around it, but let's just make it really simple, because then more people can understand, and the more people that understand, the better people can be living, the nicer they can be, and then the nicer that the world is, and happier everyone is around you, which is like win-win for everybody.
Yeah, I have the same bugbear in nutrition. Like, there's so many people that I follow on Instagram, they're like, the phytochemicals, the nutritional value, like that. Like, seriously, can we just eat some more fruit and veg? Like, literally, that's
just make it simple.
At a very surface level, just do this.
Yeah.
Do this.
Yeah.
All right, my darling. Well, thank you very much for coming on. That was really interesting. And
I love chatting.
As I said,
thank you.
I will pop everything in the old show notes where you can find Aliza. But thank you so much. That was super interesting.
Thank you. It's been fab. Thank you for having me on. I shall hopefully I'll speak to you soon. We'll do your chart fully.
Woohoo!
You take care.